A very good morning to all my dear friends. I hope you all are doing good. This is Prashant Mauni and I welcome all of you to StudyIQ. Dear friends, today we are living in an era in which emotional intelligence is given prime importance. Those days are gone when sheer intelligence, or you can say IQ, was sort of considered a key for success, right? It has been proven today that it is not IQ, but it is emotional intelligence. And what emotional intelligence is all about, it is basically about keeping a fine balance between your emotions and your logics. Many times we are exposed to situations throughout our day as well. And I'll give you a small example. Many times what happens that I have seen students that whenever they are studying, and if their mother or sister or someone else from family will give them a call regarding to come to the table for lunch or dinner, then they will get angry all of the sudden, isn't it? So there are many sort of situations throughout the day in which we can practice emotional intelligence, and this is important for all of you, because not only for your personality test or for your interviews, but in your life as well, this will help you a lot. Dear friends, with this, please allow me to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses for different exams like UPSC, Bank, SSC and other government exams of national and state levels. StudyIQ provides you with different pen drive and tablet courses. If you want to know more about it, all you have to do is check out studyiq.com, and if you have any further question or queries or doubts, you can feel free to give us a call on these numbers as well. Now dear friends, the first item that we have is pertaining to Gujarat Assembly election 2017. We know that elections are going to take place in Himachal Pradesh as well. And for those students who are preparing for UPSC Civil Services Examination, then you know it very well that General Studies paper number 3, or you can say General Studies 2, right? This is General Studies 2 and paper 3. If you go through it, go through the syllabus, then you will find that things like constitution, polity, governance are clearly mentioned there, representation of People's Act, and you have different organizations and their structures and functionings and things like that. So it is important for you. This is not only important, but this election of Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh are a sort of real life case studies, right? You can have a real life case study on this thing, and you can observe the role played by different stakeholders, and this will help you a lot in developing your capacity and understanding when it comes to elections and democracy and all those kind of stuff. Now dear friends, we know that the dates are out, and as soon as the dates are given, from that point of time, Model Code of Conduct, that is MCC, comes into immediate effect. Now Gujarat is going to have two phase polls, right? One is going to take place on 9th and the second one is going to take place on 14th, and the results of Himachal Pradesh as well won't be out until and unless these things are over, because we know that in Himachal Pradesh as well, these two political parties are against each other, and something similar is visible in Gujarat as well. Now the thing is that if you can imagine, it is quite easy to understand that if election results are out, then it will have a direct impact on the results or the whole political voting and things like that in Gujarat as well. So this is a very wise decision, and that's how it should be. The other thing is that Gujarat, when it comes to politics of Gujarat, then it has a sort of disproportionate high influence on national politics, because we know that the current Prime Minister is from Gujarat. When he was campaigning for 2014 election, at that point of time, his main sort of, you can say, the main tagline or the main thing that he had in his cookie jar, or you can say on his side, was the Gujarat model of development. Based on this thing, it is believed that this has played a major role in BJP winning, or Narendra Modi winning the seat of Prime Minister, right? So you can understand that it is going to have an impact this time as well, because this time they are going to project this work of central government and BJP and things like that. The other thing is that in 2012 election as well, right after 2012, if you were following this political scenario of our country, then you might have observed that when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, at that point of time, he was Chief Minister when he won this election of 2012. Right after that, earlier all his speeches were in Gujarati language, but then after that we can see that suddenly he is moving towards Hindi language, and the reason is that it was a sort of indication that he is going to be the next prime ministerial candidate. So 2012's election result had a sort of huge impact on 2014's general election, and this time as well 2017's legislative assemblies election will have a sort of impact on 2019's general election as well. Again, we have to wait and watch, and election commission was also targeted, or many times what happens is that during this period of election we find that even the small things are seen with the help of magnifying glass, isn't it? So this sort of things are part and parcel of election, because there is a whole sort of vibe of competition going on between rival groups, and election commission has also fallen in the radar of this election or political parties, and they were criticizing election commission of releasing the dates or the schedule of this election a bit late, and the election commission said that the only reason is because of the flood situation, and rehabilitation works were going on, and if election dates are applied earlier, you know that MCC applies, and if MCC applies, then the whole energy of rehabilitation gets diverted, right? So this was the main reason, and you can understand from this statement, this line here, that the schedule is released by election commission, right? So many times you may find this sort of questions in your pre-exams as well, that who releases the schedule, president, prime minister, etc., etc. So now you know that it is the chief election commissioner, or you can say the central election commission. Now the thing is, late date or early date, it will not matter that much. What real the things that matters is basically whether BJP is able to perform or has it performed in last 5 years. And the second question is that is Congress able to project itself, or is Congress a sort of viable alternative? These are the things on which the people of our country, or the people of Gujarat, will decide their future. And there has been some controversies as well since Narendra Modi has left Gujarat. We saw the Patidar agitation, we saw this Dalit issue, we also saw change of guard, like Anandiben Patel was chief minister, and then Vijay Rupani, at present he is the chief minister. So this sort of things took place, and on the Congress side we can say that the Congress is merging or shaking hands with some controversial leaders. But anyways, we have to wait and watch the outcome of this election. The second item is pertaining to Czech Republic. Czech Republic is a country of Europe. Here is Czech Republic. You can see it is surrounded by many countries, and it is a landlocked country. Now, dear friends, if we zoom this map here, then we find that here is Czech Republic, and the capital of Czech Republic is Prague. Now, let me tell you some basic details about this country. I believe that once you know some background details regarding this country, then you would be able to understand the editorial bit better. So the basic details are, say for example, you know that history is a very important subject, right, for your general studies and for all competitive exams all across the board in our country. So in history as well, you have some important topics like World War I and World War II. Then you also have a Cold War era, in which you find the name of USSR, right? So now if you study the history of World War II, then you will find that Czech Republic was affected by World War II. At that point of time, of course, there was no country called Czech Republic, and later on it was taken over by USSR as well. But in 1993, there was a sort of Velvet Revolution, right? Velvet Revolution took place in this part of the world, in this part of Europe, and then there was a birth of a country called Czech Republic. The second thing is that for the longest period of time, we can see that coalition government, right, has always been in fashion over here. Coalition government. The third thing is that this country is the economy of this country is doing reasonably well, right? And I'm sure you know a famous company car in India, Skoda, right? Skoda is a company of Czech Republic. the other thing is that this country is part of European Union, it is part of NATO as well, and it is part of Schengen Agreement as well. We have talked about Schengen Agreement. I believe that you know what Schengen Agreement is all about. For new listeners, let me quickly tell you that say for example you are a citizen of France, your name is A, and you get a job in company X of Germany. So if you want to go there, you don't need visa, and you don't have to go through all those sort of difficult procedures at all. Under Schengen Agreement, right, you can freely travel from one country to other country for tourism, for work, etc., etc., right? So this is what Schengen Agreement is all about. Now, dear friends, this country, again, the last thing that I would like to add here is that Prague as well is famous for tourism. It is very famous for tourism. It has lots of historical sites and monuments and things like that. And I'm sure you might have watched a movie called Bang Bang, Hrithik Roshan and Katrina Kaif, right? Yes. In this movie, they have shot this movie in Prague as well. So you can see many scenes of Prague in that movie as well. Now, anyways, let's leave the movie on one side and let's focus on this editorial. Now, elections took place in this country of Czech Republic, and there was a vibe of, you can say, American temptation was visible. When I say American temptation, I am talking about Trump, right? Mr. Trump. We know that when he was campaigning for his election, at that point of time, he used to say many controversial things, and even today as well, we can see that the stand taken by his administration against Islamic countries or Islamic people, you may say, Muslims. The other thing is the way he is talking about America first and closing the borders and not allowing foreigners to come and work there and steal the jobs and things like that. So basically what Mr. Trump is talking about is deglobalization, right? This is the thing, and very important here. You may find questions in your mains examination. This is a very important topic and a matter of concern for lots of countries and for the world as well. So deglobalization is a sort of wave that was seen in America. It is still there, and it is also observed in Europe as well. We know that after Trump, we saw Brexit. There was also a talk regarding Frexit. That means like France stepping out of European Union. Then right after Brexit, there was an election in Netherlands, but luckily the government that came in is you can say pro-EU rather than stepping out of EU. So then later on we had not Franco Hollande, but we had Macron, right? Macron came as a president of France. Then we had election in Germany, and now we had election in this Europe. And all this during all these different elections in different countries in Europe, there was a wave of this sort of deglobalization and anti-immigration and anti-Muslim, and all these sort of things were quite visible. Now the thing is that, dear friends, the billionaire, right, something similar what happened in USA, a billionaire called Andrej Babis, right? Andrej Babis, his party ANO won 30%, and as you know now that coalition is a thing that is quite visible in the politics of Czech Republic. So here as well, he is most likely to become the future prime minister because of coalition. Now we have to wait and watch what are the exact things that will roll out of this thing. But it is believed that he is going to be the next prime minister of Czech Republic, and his whole campaign was, of course, there was a visibility of, as I told you, anti-Islam and anti-immigration thing. But at the same point of time, he was campaigning against anti-establishment. That means the things that are going on in Czech Republic should be turned around. That things should be rejected, and new change and things like that he was talking about. He also talked about anti-corruption and cronyism, right? Cronyism basically means a nexus between, or a friendship between government and corporates or businesses, right? They look after each other very well. So they will provide money to the politicians, and politicians, when they come in power, they will design policies in such a way that few companies will benefit a lot out of it. So this sort of things is known as cronyism. Now the thing is, dear friends, if we see the life of or the things that are surrounded around Mr. Babis, then we find that he is also surrounded with many controversies, like it is alleged that he has misused the European Union subsidies. It is also believed that he was having relations with STB, which is a sort of secret police of USSR. So this sort of things are there. The other thing is that what Mr. Babis is talking about, that he is fine with the European Union, right? He's pro-European Union. He's also talking about pro-NATO. He's fine with the NATO as well. But when it comes to migration policy, immigration policy, not migration, but migration basically means the people coming in the country, right? They are known as immigrants, and migration basically means that people from one country going to another country. So, anyways, so this he's against this European Union's migration policy, because what is happening in Europe is that people from Africa and people from this part of West Asia are heading towards Europe because of the poverty and the war sort of situations that are going on in their country. So they are looking towards European countries to absorb them. And earlier as well, Czech Republic has not followed European Union's standard, and this again brings us to this Schengen Agreement. And let me give you a small example here. Say for example, you get in total Europe has got, say for example, 40,000 immigrants from different countries. So now under this Schengen Agreement, they will be distributed, right, in as per the need and requirement of different countries. So you may say that 2,000 will be taken by Czech Republic, and say for example 2,000 will be taken by Germany, things like that. So these are the things, or this is the thing that is been rejected by this Mr. Babis, and he wants to just carry on business with European Union, and the European Union is not going to be happy about this thing. It is all about give and take. There are many times when you are in a group, so you have to suffer a little bit as well for the betterment of the whole group. And the thing about European Union is that it is a sort of you can say a family of democratic country. Reasonably speaking, they are doing quite well. You won't find a poor country of in Europe. Of course, you find difference between the economy of Germany and Romania, right? A small example for you here. But the things are not as bad as we find in Asia or Africa or South America, right? Things are not that bad in this part of the world. And for India as well, if we see from India's perspective, then it is important for India, or it is in the interest of India, that European Union remains as a sort of one entity, right? It is important because we have a very good relationship, business, trade and investment relationship with European Union. And of course there are some issues, but there are going to be issues all the time, but that does not mean that we should stop dealing with each other. So overall the relationships are quite good, and it is in interest of India that EU sticks together. With this, dear friends, moving on to another item, and this is about a bold step in bank reform. Yesterday we have talked about this thing. Day before yesterday we have talked about the same thing. It is about recapitalization, right? Recapitalization of banks. So the thing is, I believe I don't have to repeat all those things that we have already discussed yesterday and day before yesterday. It would be, I believe it would hurt your ears as well, and it won't be beneficial for anyone, isn't it? It would be a sheer waste of time. But of course we will discuss things that we have not discussed, or the things that we find in this article. Now the thing is, dear friends, we know that economic growth has been going down from many years, for a couple of years, and demonetization and GST, its impact. We know that after demonetization there was a sort of fear in the market or in the economy, and people were a bit skeptical regarding investment and things like that. And then came GST, and GST again, it was a new change, so there was a slowdown in the business as well. Anyways, the good thing about both these things, and this is not just this article or Government of India saying, if you go through the reports of IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, or rating agencies like Standards and Poor's or Moody's, then you find that all of them are saying that, of course, these two things are going to bring, or it has in fact brought some short-term pains for the people and for the economy, but in mid-term and in long-term, it is going to provide us some good gains, and the economy, or the graph of economy, you can say, will again start. It is at present, it is in this situation, but later on it will go up, no doubt about it. Now the thing is that we know the importance of capitalization, isn't it? But here I would like to provide you one more angle. It is not mentioned here in this article, but I would like to relate this thing, and I'm sure you will learn, you can easily relate this thing, and this will help you in your understanding. And if you want to present this thing in your mains answer writing or your essay or interview, then this will help you as well, and in your prelims as well, this may help you. Right, so basically we know that recently Nobel Prize for 2017, right, Nobel Awards were given out, right, 2017. And when we talk about economics, right, we know that this award was given to Mr. Richard Thaler. His name is Richard Thaler, right? He got this Nobel Prize of 2017. Now, why he got this Nobel Prize? Because of his theory, right? And his theory is pertaining to behavioral economics, right? What behavioral economics is all about? Very simple, let me tell you. Now know very well that many times we hear this sort of things in the market. Many times you hear your friends or your family members or relatives talking about that at present the economy is not doing that good, or market is not going that good, etc., etc. Money is not there, people here and there, right? So there is this sort of words, or this sort of things are of course negative, isn't it? This is called a sort of negative vibe in economy. And many times you hear positive things as well, isn't it? Or things that are going on, or the things that are in fact going on are positive. It is you can say rejuvenating, or providing a sort of energy as well. So this sort of behavior has a sort of a strong impact on economy of any country, right? This is not only proven, but this is something that is visible as well. This is how share markets works as well. You know that if there is a sort of nuclear test conducted by North Korea, then there would be many investors who would think that there would be a war-like situation. So the share that I have bought for 50 rupees, now it is of 100 rupees. And in future, if the war keeps on going, then if there is a sort of situation of war, then the market will come down. I will lose some money. So it is better to take out the money from the market now. So this all works on prediction and pain and fear and positivity, or you can say it all depends on the psychology. Right, psychology plays a big role here. So if you start taking out money from the market, right, then what will happen? That that particular share will lose its demand, because now you will find too much quantity of that particular share. And when the quantity is high and the demand is low, if the supply is high but the demand is going down, then of course the prices will fall down, isn't it? So this is something, this is again a sort of practical example of behavioral economics, and you can use your own examples. You can think about them, right? You can think about many examples. I'm sure you might have experienced many these sort of things in your real life as well. Now the thing is, dear friends, what this article is talking about, it is also talking about some regulations. Now let me tell you that if you are not from economics or you can say commercial background, right? If your 12th and 11th is in arts or commerce, arts and science, then don't worry about this sort of things. See, let me tell you that, let me assure you all of you that if you're preparing for GS, that means general studies, right? Then for you, the questions, if you go through the questions, then you will find that the questions are not a level of they don't expect from you to have a sort of PhD in this sort of things on economics and things like that. All you have to develop is a sort of general awareness regarding things, or you can say you should know the basic things about this thing, right, about different things. So when you think read things like capital adequacy and stressed advances or proportions and things like that, then don't get cowed down, or don't be afraid, right? I'm here to break it down things for you. Now there are laws, right? There are laws or regulations, you can say, through which the banks have to keep a sort of fine balance, right? Let's forget this proportion and let's use the word a fine balance. Now, of course, we can understand this thing. Imagine if you have all the properties, right? You have one flat in Mumbai and one flat in Delhi and Kolkata and Bangalore and things like that. You have different properties, but in your bank you only have 25,000 rupees, or you may have 5,000 rupees only, right? So you have too much of asset, but when it comes to cash, when it comes to liquidity, you don't have that much money. So this is not a good scenario as well, right? If you have too much cash and no property, then as well it is not a, you cannot say that you have a sort of fine balance. The same thing applies to the banks as well. If the banks have too much assets, or you can say that too much assets or too much capital is not good, there should be a fine balance between both these things. And there are of course some standards as well, that bank has to keep this much amount of capital, and if it has say for example the level is 100 rupees, right? And if the bank is having, say for example, 110, so there is no harm in it. The good thing is for the bank that now, as it is having extra capital in its hand, it can have a sort of freedom to decide loans, right? It can have its own freedom. It can provide different sort of loans and things like that. But if say for example, if the requirement is 100 and if the bank is only having 90 rupees, then of course the government will put some restrictions. So this sort of laws are there already there, and we know the impact of bad loans and non-performing assets and how it will hamper the profit and how it will create losses for the bank and things like that. And here again you find a sort of terminology called stressed advances. What is stressed advances? Advances basically means loans, right? That's it, don't worry about it, it's loan. So what is part of this stressed loans or stressed advances? You have two things. One is non-performing loans and the second is restructured loans. Restructured loans means if you have given 100 rupees to someone, now they are not in a capacity to pay you back that 100 rupees, so you will say that okay, forget about 100, just give me 90, I'll forget about that 10 rupees and never mind, I know your situation, things like that. So this is called a restructured loans. Or you may cut down interest rate. Earlier you used to charge 10%, but now you say that your conditions or the market condition is not that good, so I will make it 7% for you. So this is a sort of example of restructured loan. Now the thing is that when this NDA government came into power, at that point of time the banks, the capital was a little bit stressed, and at that point of time it was said that the government should inject 2 lakh crore rupees. But the government came out with Indra Dhanush plan, and it injected only 70,000 crore rupees. So this was a sort of opportunity that was missed. If we would have grabbed that opportunity, then things would have been different at this point of time. But never mind, it's all fine. Now the government has identified these things, then we are going to see a sort of change as well. Money is going to come into the market in the hands of the bank, and then eventually it will come into the market as well. And this sort of things we have talked about it. Now the thing is that many people are saying that there is this sort of credit growth, the fall in credit growth has been observed because of poor demand of credit. That is not right. Of course, when we talk about investment, there is a negative vibe. So people are not taking credit from the bank or loans from the bank for investment, but they need money for working capital, in terms of working capital. And after the rollout of GST, we know that refund and all these things are a big issue for small traders. So for them, there is we can see a demand of working capital or loan in the market. And many people are saying that it is all because of public banks. This is the main reason why we are in this mess, but that is not right as well. If you go through the world scenario, then you find that throughout the world there are many banks. Most of the banks are run by or are privately owned banks. So it's not about public bank or private bank. The situations were such that this sort of things took place in our country. But never mind, this infusion will hopefully create some sort of kick in the market. Moving on to another item. This is about a death of a small child, right? An 11-year-old girl in Jharkhand died because of hunger, because of starvation. This is a very shameful thing in itself, particularly for a country like India. The other thing is that, dear friends, there is a special video lecture available on Global Hunger Index 2017, and if you haven't checked this thing out, then I would recommend all of you to do it, because here you know that hunger has a direct relationship with agriculture, and agriculture, when we talk about agriculture, 60% of our population is engaged with agriculture. The second thing is that this report talks about that nearly 70%, right, nearly 70%, or 68.5 to be precise, this much population of our country is affected by hunger. So, and if you go through your mains examination past papers, then as well you will find questions pertaining to this topic. So you should watch this video. It is available both in Hindi and English. And the thing is, dear friends, what is happening at present is that the government is creating too many sort of steps, you can say, or you can say that it is creating multiple checkpoints, and because of these things, this is basically working as a sort of hurdle when it comes to giving away benefits to the needy one. And the thing is, this article is saying that this JAM thing, this Jan Dhan Aadhaar and mobile thing is not going to work, or is not that good, etc. But let me tell you that there are some positive side of this Jan Dhan as well. Now we know when Jan Dhan was launched, or the conditions for opening Jan Dhan account is that you need one ID, right? That's it. You don't need any sort of documents and witness and things like that. Just take your driving license, photo ID and address thing, and you will be able to open this account. The reason why these things were kept this simple was because the people who designed this policy, they were knowing very well the things that are prevalent in our country. They were knowing the economic nature and culture of our country. They were knowing the situation of poor people in our country. But when we observe this sort of benefit schemes, then we find that government is missing the whole point. And if we are going to do this sort of things, if we are going to give more emphasis on Aadhaar and not on the right to life, or the benefits that are absolutely necessary for the people, then this sort of situations are going to go on for the longest. They are going to stay here with us. And the other thing is that this article is also talking about some real life incidents, or you can say some examples. You have Kanku Devi, Sita Devi and Daku Devi of these are the ladies, right? Three women here. They were in the similar situation. They were not provided with the benefits and their rights, but it was with the help of NGOs and other pressure groups who were able to turn the table for in favor of these ladies here. But everyone is not that lucky, and government has to change the system. The social security system, pension system in Rajasthan is another example of how documentations and too much of hurdles are creating the life of elderly poor is becoming horrid because of this sort of things. And this article also argues about the option to choose a payment mode. Like, everyone should have a right. I don't want digital payment, right? Because all these digital things, everything is fine. We are not saying no, but there are people in our country that don't know how to use this sort of things. There are people in our country that don't know how to operate mobile app and things like that. Imagine a person who has who has worked as a labor throughout his life in our country, and can you imagine he would be able to operate a smartphone? Would he have a smartphone and internet connection? So if we are going to create this sort of things, then of course many times we find that even when they go to ask for a help, they have to pay 50 or 100 rupees, isn't it? So this will create other issues as well. And it is also believed that, or it is also said that this sort of changes of Aadhaar and all this, too much of these procedures are created for administrative convenience rather than keeping in view, or keeping right to life in the center or focus. So government should change these things, and the solution is bottom up approach rather than all the instructions coming from the top management. They should make the grassroots level people, it could be stakeholders, it could be the government employees, they should be taken on board, and their decisions or their views should be taken as well. And this is a sort of news item. I have clubbed it together with this article, so help yourself with it. Regarding last two articles, dear friends, this one is about Modi Magic, a very political article. There's no need for you to spend time after it. This one is pertaining to Kashmir. It is a sort of a small story about it, how things started in 1960s, and then Indus Water Treaty came in, and it is talking about the status quo of basically Jawaharlal Nehru said that the ceasefire line should be kept as it is. Ayub Khan of Pakistan said that that is not acceptable, and since then things were not right. Then after 40 years, counting from this 1960s, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh again started conversation. Then again we had a sort of break in it, or you can say quiet spell, and now the government has started having a chat, or you can say it is going to have a sort of chat regarding Kashmir, and of course Pakistan and other things will get affected as well. Again, we have to wait and watch. It is too early to say what is going to be the outcome of this particular thing, or the appointment of Dineshwar Sharma as a main representative of Government of India, who is going to have a discussion with the people or stakeholders of Jammu and Kashmir. Dear friends, this one is a news item, and I believe this is one of the most important news item of the day, because I think we will find editorials and articles on this thing, and this is about consumer protection. We know in our country that when it comes to consumer protection, the laws are there but they are not implemented, and government has said that it is going to come out with new laws which are going to be one of the finest, or you can say at par with the international laws, and the government is talking about changing the scenario of consumer rights in our country. PM also said that from consumer protection we have to move ahead, we have to climb altogether another level of consumer empowerment and ensuring consumer face no difficulties when it comes to addressing their grievance. It is not taking too much time, and it is also not cost effective. So these are the things that he has talked about. Dear friends, I'm sure many of you, your dream is to become IAS officer, isn't it? And it should be like that. That's how it should be. And Prime Minister met training IAS officer in this academy, Lal Bahadur Shastri Administration Training Academy, and he talked about national vision. He said that every IAS or training officer should have a national vision. That means you should have a sort of clear idea about the future of our country, and ideas are very strong. Let me tell you that. Let me remind you that ideas are the seed, right? If you have a good idea, if you look after your seed, if you provide it all the tender loving care, then one day it will become a huge tree. And imagine if every IAS is having a sort of huge tree, then you can have a whole sort of big forest or jungle, you can say, right? So these are the things he has talked about in it, and of course these are news items, so please help yourself with it. You can go through them. And there was a very sad incident that took place in our country, and a tourist from Switzerland were attacked in Fatehpur Sikri. And let me tell you that Switzerland itself is famous for tourism, it is famous for sports, it is famous for watches, and Swiss bank is quite famous as well, or you can say infamous. And this things is not at all acceptable to us, because tourism, we have recently celebrated tourism, and there is another item pertaining to tourism, and it was there was so many media hype going on in media, right? In the news there was things like this Taj Mahal and controversy regarding Taj Mahal. So this Aditya Nath ji has clearly stated, he has clearly said that Taj Mahal is property, or it is a gem of India, and it is the duty of everyone to protect Taj Mahal. That includes government, and it includes all the citizens and stakeholders, right? And with this, I have a question for you, dear friends. Give me the date of International Tourism Day. And as we are talking about Taj Mahal, the second question is, you have to give the hierarchy of Mughal dynasty, right? Who was the first king, and you can limit yourself from the first king to somewhere around 1707, the year of 1707, right? You don't have to provide name of all the small kings, the major ones only. And this is important for your history as well. Now, dear friends, talking about this item here, this government and consumer protection, I have one more question for you, and the question is, you have to give an example of misleading advertisement that you have seen either on the net or on TV or on your mobile or any other place, right? Misleading advertisement, and you have to give a sort of practical example, and it should be logical as well. You don't have to write essay, just a couple of lines should be more than enough, should be fine. And with this, dear friends, In Indonesia, there is a huge firework factory got fire, and 47 died, and we have talked about this thing because it was in news regarding ASEAN meeting. Then last item is regarding oil investment opportunity in India, and when it comes to hydrocarbon, recently government has launched a policy called HELP. The full form is Hydrocarbon Exploration and Licensing Policy, and the main aim is to reduce the dependence of imports of oil and gas by 10% by 2022. With this, dear friends, we end this discussion here. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and pass your answers and your valuable feedback. I will see you all soon. Enjoy your studies. Jai Hind.